I didn't think that silence could be so loud. But that morning, standing in my kitchen with my phone face down on the counter, it felt like the walls were listening. I knew I should call her. I didn't, and that was the first mistake. 3 years earlier, if you'd asked me who I was, I would have answered without hesitation. Reliable, focused, in control. Those were the words I used. What I didn't say back then was that control had become my hiding place. Her name was Claire. We met in a way that felt accidental enough to believe in. A mutual friend's dinner, a crowded table, too much noise to have a real conversation. She laughed at something I said that wasn't meant to be funny. I noticed that. Our relationship didn't start with fireworks. It started with consistency. Texts that were answered, plans that were kept, silences that felt comfortable, not heavy, at least at first. Claire was observant, not in an interrogating way, more like she noticed what I avoided. I'd change the subject when things got emotional. I'd make jokes when conversations slowed down. I'd keep moving when she wanted to stay still. She never pushed hard. She just remembered. The first time she asked me what I was afraid of, I laughed. That should have been a warning. Everyone's afraid of something, I said. But it doesn't define us. She looked at me for a long moment. No, she said quietly. But it explains us. I didn't respond. I told myself I was protecting us. From pressure, from expectations, from disappointment. But looking back, I was protecting myself from being seen too clearly. We moved in together after a year. It made sense on paper. Shared schedules, shared expenses, shared routines. What we didn't share was the same idea of future. I talked about stability. She talked about meaning. Those conversations always ended politely, too politely. The cracks didn't appear suddenly. They arrived slowly, in pauses after questions, in looks held a second too long, in words chosen carefully instead of honestly. Claire started asking different questions. Do you ever think about what comes next? Do you feel settled or stuck? I always had reasonable answers. They just weren't real ones. The night everything shifted didn't feel dramatic at the time. No yelling, no slammed doors, just a sentence spoken calmly. I don't feel like I know where I stand with you anymore. I remember nodding, as if acknowledging the weather. That night, I stayed up late while she slept. I stared at the ceiling, convincing myself that uncertainty was temporary, that she'd adjust, that things would stabilize. That's what I'd always believed. But relationships don't collapse from one moment. They erode from what's never addressed. The morning she packed a small bag, I thought it was a break, a pause, something we'd talk through later. She stood by the door and waited for me to say something. Anything. I didn't. That was the day silence chose for me. And I let it. Months passed. Life continued, as it does when you don't stop it. Work, sleep, distractions. People asked how I was doing. I said fine. It wasn't a lie. It just wasn't the truth. Then one morning, that same kitchen felt different. Too quiet. My phone buzzed. A name I didn't expect, Claire. And suddenly, everything I hadn't said was standing right behind me. I stared at the screen, and for the first time, I understood something I'd been avoiding for years. Some conversations don't wait forever, and some silences come with a cost you only see when it's already too late. I answered the phone, but I already knew whatever she was about to say. I didn't say her name. Neither did she. For a second, there was just breathing. Then she spoke. I wasn't sure you'd pick up. I almost didn't, I said. She exhaled softly, not relieved, just aware. She told me she was in town, just for the week. That sentence carried more weight than it should have. People don't come back casually after everything that's left unsaid. We met the next evening. Same cafe, different version of us. She arrived first. I saw her through the window before I walked in. She looked steadier. That unsettled me. Hey, she said, not cold, not warm, just honest. We talked about surface things at first. Work, the city, time, avoidance dressed as politeness. I noticed she didn't ask how I was. I noticed I didn't volunteer. Finally, she looked at me the way she used to when she wanted clarity. Not accusation, expectation. I didn't call to reopen old wounds, she said. I just needed to know something. I nodded, even though my chest tightened. Do you understand why I left? The question landed cleanly. No anger, no edge, just precision. I wanted to say yes. That would have been easy, but easy had been my problem. I understand more now than I did then, I said. She studied my face. That's not an answer. She was right. I told her the truth, not all of it, but enough. I told her I was afraid of committing to a future I couldn't fully picture, afraid of promising something I might fail at, afraid of losing myself in expectations. She listened, didn't interrupt, didn't defend. When I finished, she nodded slowly. I figured, she said. That hurt more than disagreement. I waited for you to say something like that, she continued. For a long time. I swallowed. How long? She looked down at her cup. Until I realized you never would. That was the moment I understood something important. She hadn't left because I was incapable. She left because I was unwilling. I'm not here to blame you, she said. I just needed to know if you've changed. The word changed hung between us. Heavy, demanding. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to believe it. But growth isn't declared. It's proven, and I didn't know if I had proof yet. I'm trying, I said instead. She smiled gently. That smile wasn't encouragement. It was closure. I hope so, she said, for your sake. We walked outside together. The street felt louder than usual, life moving forward without permission. She stopped at the corner. This is where I turn, she said. Of course it was. I hesitated. This was the moment I used to miss. The pause where something honest could change the direction of things. Claire, I said. She turned. I saw curiosity, not hope. I should have fought harder, I said. I should have spoken sooner. She held my gaze. I know, she said. Then she added something I wasn't prepared for. But timing matters more than intention. She stepped back, and before she walked away, she said one last thing. I'm not angry anymore. I just don't belong to that version of you. I stood there long after she disappeared, letting the words settle, letting the truth land. That night, alone in my apartment, I realized something quietly devastating. Understanding comes too late when the other person has already moved on. But as I sat there, staring at the dark window, my phone buzzed again. A message. Not from her. From someone else. A name I hadn't seen in years. And suddenly, the story wasn't finished yet. Because some endings don't close. The message was from Lena. Room for the I stared at the name longer than I should have. Not because I didn't remember her. Because I remembered her too well. I don't know why I thought of you today, she wrote. But I did. No question. No invitation. Just a door left unlocked. Lena was from before everything fell apart. Before Claire. Before the silence. Before I learned how good I was at avoiding decisions. We hadn't ended badly. We just drifted. Another thing I let happen instead of choosing. I didn't reply right away. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in my hand, feeling something unfamiliar. Not excitement. Responsibility. I thought about Claire's words. Timing matters more than intention. That sentence had rearranged something inside me. The next morning, I woke up early. Earlier than usual. No alarm, just awareness. I realized something uncomfortable. I'd spent years believing I was waiting for the right moment, but really, I was waiting for certainty. And certainty doesn't come to men like me. It's built or missed. I replied to Lena. Short, honest. I thought of you too. Want to talk? We met 3 days later, not at a cafe with history. Not somewhere symbolic. Just a quiet bar on a Tuesday night. Neutral ground. She looked different, not better. Not worse, just lived in, like someone who'd made choices. We talked, carefully, not circling the past, but not pretending it didn't exist. She asked questions I used to dodge. I noticed that, and for the first time, I didn't deflect. When she asked what I wanted now, I didn't answer immediately. I took a breath. That alone felt new. I want to be present, I said, even when it's uncomfortable. She watched me closely, not judging. assessing. That's a big shift, she said. I know, I replied. I didn't get there gracefully. She smiled at that. A real one. Later that night, walking home alone, I felt something settle. Not happiness. Alignment. I thought about Claire again, not with regret this time, with respect. She hadn't left to punish me, she left to save herself. And in doing so, she forced me to finally see myself clearly. Weeks passed. Lena and I didn't rush anything. No declarations, no promises made out of fear of loss. Just consistency, conversation, choice. One evening, sitting across from her in my apartment, she said something that stayed with me. You're different, she said. Not louder, just here. That was it. That was the change. I didn't become fearless. I didn't become perfect. I just stopped disappearing when it mattered. Some people come into your life to be loved. Others come to teach you what love requires. Claire was the second kind, and because of her, I didn't waste the first chance I got after. I used to think endings were loud, dramatic, defining, but the real ones are quiet. They happen when you finally choose to stay, even when leaving would be easier. And this time, I didn't let the moment pass.